What the HLL is happening in Cleveland right now? Because after what we just witnessed in Foxborough, it's starting to feel like the entire Browns organization is on the verge of collapse. The quarterback experiment that Kevin Stefanski has been protecting for weeks, maybe even months, just completely fell apart in front of the entire country. And the worst part? Even he knows it's over. This isn't just another Sunday loss. It's not about a bad throw or a missed read. This is the unraveling of a plan that was never going to work, and now everyone from the fan base to the locker room can see it. Dillon Gabriel wasn't just bad, he was exposed completely. And the numbers? They're almost too painful to read out loud. But it wasn't just what happened on the field that turned this into a full-blown crisis. It was what happened after the game. Kevin Stefanski stood in front of the media silent, shaken, avoiding eye contact, and said just enough to make one thing brutally clear. This situation is unsustainable. And yet, as the pressure reaches its peak, the Browns still haven't made the most obvious move. The move the entire league is waiting for them to make. Because while Dillon Gabriel continues to sink, there's a very real solution sitting quietly on the bench, and if Cleveland doesn't act now, this entire season and maybe even Stefanski's last chance could go up in flames. Let's talk about the disaster in New England, the press conference that revealed everything, and why the Browns are out of excuses. This is where things start getting real ugly. If you didn't see that game against New England, consider yourself lucky. Because what happened on that field wasn't just a loss, it was a disaster, an unraveling, a total collapse that put the entire Browns quarterback situation and maybe the coaching staff under a national spotlight with nowhere to hide. Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Let's not sugarcoat it. Dillon Gabriel was atrocious. And I'm talking the kind of bad that makes you wonder if he was even watching film during the week, let alone preparing to face a Bill Belichick defense. He didn't just miss throws, he was seeing ghosts out there. Misreads, overthrows, panic in the pocket, tossing balls directly to linebackers like it was part of the play call. At one point, it felt like Gabriel had a better connection with the Patriots' defense than his own receivers. The numbers are brutal, and somehow, they still don't tell the full story. 21 completions on 35 attempts, which sounds somewhat manageable, until you notice there was no firepower behind any of it. Just 156 yards. That's it. In a full NFL game. 2 garbage-time touchdowns when the game was already over. And 2 of the worst interceptions you'll see all season. And let's be clear, these weren't tips off a receiver's hands or last-minute desperation heaves. These were flat-out bad decisions from the snap. One pick went straight to a linebacker who didn't even have to move. The other? So poorly placed. The defensive back had time to check his email, tie his cleats, and still make the catch. You could feel it in the stadium. The crowd, the sideline, even the broadcast team, everyone knew what they were watching. A quarterback completely out of his depth. But this wasn't just one guy crashing and burning. Across the entire field, Cleveland looked out of sync. And yet, the wildest part? The defense actually came to play. Because while Gabriel was handing the ball to New England like a gift basket, Myles Garrett was putting on a historic performance, 5 sacks, 5, in one game. That's the kind of stat line you see in Madden on rookie difficulty, not in a real NFL game. And somehow, even that wasn't enough to keep the Browns competitive, which shows you just how horrendous the offensive side was. The final score? 32-13. But let's not kid ourselves, it felt worse than that. And believe it or not, the real breaking point didn't happen on the field. It came a few minutes later, when Kevin Stefanski walked into a press room full of cameras and told the world everything we needed to know about what's really going on in that locker room. If the game was a disaster, the post-game press conference felt like a funeral. Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the podium looking like a man who'd just seen a ghost, or better yet, one staring down the reality of a season crumbling in real time. Blank expression, no spark left, avoiding eye contact, voice low, almost quiet, like someone who knew there was nothing left to defend. And that's exactly what made it so revealing. Because for weeks now, Stefanski has stood by Dillon Gabriel like his career depended on it. He's refused to entertain the idea of a QB switch. He's brushed off questions about Shedeur Sanders, and he's doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on this quarterback experiment. But after that Patriots game, that wall started to crack. Stefanski opened with a typical coach speak line. "We just didn't do anything good enough today." We'll win as a team, lose as a team. We're going to look at everything over the bye. Standard, right? Only it wasn't. Because this time, it wasn't just what he said, it's what he didn't say. He didn't defend Gabriel. He didn't talk about progress or potential or trusting the process. He didn't mention improvement or learning moments or how the kid competed. Instead, Stefanski slumped over the mic and delivered vague, recycled lines about evaluating everything, over and over. The same phrase echoed again and again like a man stuck in panic mode. We're looking at every position. We're looking at everything I'm doing. We'll evaluate the quarterback room. Translation? He's got no answers left. But here's the quote that really broke the internet. One short line, buried in the middle of a follow-up question, when a reporter asked if he needed to do a better job with the quarterback situation. Stefanski paused, looked down and said, "I think I know the answer is yes." Read that again. I think I know the answer is yes. That's not confidence. That's not belief. That's a man admitting, without fully admitting, that he screwed up. Stefanski could have said, "Gabriel's still our guy. We're not making any knee-jerk decisions. He's learning and we're sticking with it." But he didn't. Instead, he left the door wide open, maybe even accidentally opened it himself, and now everyone in Cleveland sees exactly what's behind it. And if there was any last shred of protection left for Dillon Gabriel, that, quote, shattered it. Because the minute a head coach can no longer defend his quarterback with confidence, especially in a season spiraling out of control, it means one thing: a change is coming. The only question now is what took so long? There's always a moment. In every sinking season, in every fading regime, there's that one flash, that one sentence, that one look when you just know things are about to change. For Kevin Stefanski, that moment came with 7 words. I think I know the answer is yes. It was quiet. It was almost tossed in like filler. But it spoke louder than any defensive quote he could have given. Because let's be honest, Stefanski could have done what he usually does. He could have sidestepped the question, deflected blame, hyped up Gabriel's growth, or the complexity of the position. He's done it for weeks, but not this time. When asked whether he was doing enough at the quarterback position, he flinched, paused, lowered his eyes, and then he all but confirmed it. Yes, I think I know the answer is yes. And just like that, all of the excuses, all the development curve talk, all the blind loyalty vanished. That's when you know a coach feels the heat. Because that wasn't strategy. That wasn't a pre-planned response. That was Stefanski's guard slipping for just long enough that the truth escaped. He's out of time. He knows it. The people around him know it. And Dillon Gabriel? It's clear the staff is no longer convinced he's the guy. Even more telling is what Stefanski didn't say after that. At no point in the entire press conference did he offer any defense, any praise, or even a neutral response about Gabriel's actual play. He didn't say, "We still have confidence in Dillon. He's learning each week. He made some good throws." Not one word of it. Instead, he fell back into generic team speak. We win as a team, we lose as a team. Credit to them, they played well. We'll stay together and figure it out. But you know what's missing there? Dillon Gabriel's name. That's not just a coach protecting confidence, that's a coach distancing himself, preparing for a pivot. And the truth is, there's no more defending to be done. The eye test tells the whole story. The film is bad, the numbers are worse, and the progress? It's nowhere. This isn't about developing a young quarterback anymore. This is about a team trying not to implode entirely. And at this point, everyone, fans, analysts, players, opposing coaches, can see it. Stefanski lost the battle long ago, and now he's just trying not to lose the war. But here's the twist. A change at quarterback might not just be necessary for the team. It might be the only thing that saves Stefanski's job. And right now, that decision is no longer a matter of if. It's a matter of when. Let's shift the focus for a second. Because while Dillon Gabriel was out there getting exposed one bad throw at a time, while Kevin Stefanski mumbled his way through another awkward press conference, Myles Garrett was doing something historic. We're talking 5 sacks in one game. That doesn't happen. That barely even sounds real. That's a high school stat line. A video game stat line. A once-in-a-career number that should have had the Browns flying home with a win, or at the very least with some momentum. Instead, it meant absolutely nothing. Garrett played like a man possessed. He bullied the Patriots' offensive line on nearly every snap. He was blowing up plays before they even had a chance to develop. He looked like the best athlete on the field, and truthfully, he was. But here's the tragedy. That kind of performance should be celebrated. It should spark headlines across the league. It should live in highlight reels, get reposted a million times, and be remembered as a defining moment of Garrett's all-pro career. Instead, it'll be forgotten, buried under another ugly Browns loss, buried under another failed experiment under center. Think about that. Your franchise cornerstone is out here playing like a future Hall of Famer, and you still get blown out by 19 points. That's not just frustrating. That's inexcusable. And it raises a much bigger concern, one that should terrify the Browns organization more than anything else. How long can you waste generational talent before you lose them for good? Because players like Myles Garrett don't come around often. And when they do, you build around them. You find answers fast. What you don't do is waste their prime on a broken offense, a quarterback in freefall, and a coaching staff too stubborn to make a change. Myles Garrett gave you everything he had on Sunday. He did his job and then some. But football isn't tennis. It's not golf. You can't win off one guy's performance. This is a team sport, and right now, half the team is letting the other half down. If you're a defensive player in that locker room, how do you feel seeing those kinds of stats and still walking off the field with nothing to show for it? If you're Garrett or Denzel Ward or jock guys who are keeping this team barely afloat every week, how much longer do you stay patient while the offense trips over its own feet? And that right there might be what answers the quarterback question once and for all. Because this season, it's not just about development anymore. It's about keeping the locker room together before it all falls apart completely. And right now, there's one move left that might stop the bleeding. There comes a moment in every season, especially in one spiraling like this, where tough calls need to be made. And for the Cleveland Browns, that moment has arrived. Because while Dillon Gabriel keeps starting games he clearly isn't ready for, while Kevin Stefanski talks in circles and desperately tries to keep the house from crumbling, there's a wild card sitting on the bench with nothing to lose and everything to prove: Shedeur Sanders. And at this point, he doesn't just deserve a shot, it might save the season. Now look, let's be clear, there's no guarantee Shedeur instantly fixes everything. He's young, he's raw, he's untested at the pro level. But when your offense is ranking near the bottom of the league, when your quarterback looks overwhelmed every single week, when your team is 2-6 and wasting elite defensive talent, you don't need a guarantee. You need a spark. And right now, Sanders is the only spark left. Cleveland fans aren't dumb, they've seen enough. They've sat through too many painful throws, too many stalled drives, too many turnovers that feel like gut punches. Gabriel has had every opportunity to prove he belongs, and all we've seen is regression. No flashes of potential. No progress. No reason to believe he's the future. Meanwhile, you have Shedeur, a guy who for months has quietly done things the right way. He hasn't complained. He's stayed professional. He's kept preparing. And yet, he's watching someone ahead of him actively sink the team. That's not just frustrating, that's toxic. It sends a message to the locker room. Production doesn't matter. Loyalty matters more than results. And if you're Stefanski, and you still want to lead this team beyond the next few weeks, that kind of message is career suicide. The timing couldn't be better. The team is heading into a bye week, the perfect opportunity to reset, shake things up, and let Shedeur get first-team reps. Let him prove what he can do with a full playbook and a clean slate. Because here's the real question. Every Browns fan is shouting, what exactly are you waiting for? You're 2-6. Playoff hopes? Almost gone. The offense? Dead in the water. Momentum? Non-existent. And you've got this kid with the arm, the poise, the swagger, the ceiling sitting right there, doing nothing. If you're Kevin Stefanski, sticking with Gabriel now doesn't just feel like mismanagement. It feels like sabotage. And if you're the front office watching from above, you've got to wonder, is your head coach trying to win football games? Or is he just trying not to admit he was wrong? Because soon, the choice won't be Gabriel versus Sanders. It'll be Sanders or a new head coach. It's one thing to say the Browns look broken, it's another to prove it with numbers so ugly they borderline on humiliation. Let's take a look at the raw, cold-blooded stats from that Patriots game. Because if you thought the eye test was bad, 213 total yards in an NFL game. That's it, not a typo. Against a Patriots defense that's solid but far from elite, Cleveland's entire offense scraped together just 213 total yards. That's not even 3 full football fields. For context, some teams rack that up in 2 quarters. The fact that this was the Browns' full production over 4 quarters of football is straight up embarrassing. Only 68 rushing yards. The ground game? Near non-existent. The Browns averaged just a few short gains here and there, never once threatening the line of scrimmage. No identity, no rhythm, no control. And without a rushing attack to lean on, Gabriel was left out there completely exposed. 2 for 1 on third down conversions. That's an 18% conversion rate, 2 successful third downs out of 11. Translation: Cleveland couldn't sustain a single drive, couldn't keep the offense on the field, couldn't create any pressure, momentum, or rhythm. You want to talk about untimely failure? That's the definition. 1 on fourth down attempts. Even when they tried to be aggressive, it backfired. They couldn't convert when it really mattered, and by the fourth quarter, it just became desperation. 2 interceptions. We already talked about Gabriel's picks, but combine those with all these failed conversions, and you start to realize something. This offense isn't just inefficient, it's flat out broken. Time of possession. Patriots dominated with over 37 minutes. The Browns' defense spent nearly an entire hour on the field, 37 minutes of being run into the ground, exhausted, overworked, and constantly sent back out after another failed offensive series. How do you win football games like that? You don't. You get blown out, at home. And any momentum or morale left in the locker room? It dies with each failed drive and each wasted defensive effort. These aren't just bad numbers. They're warning signs of collapse. They show a team that can't move the ball, can't protect the quarterback, can't establish the run, can't sustain drives, and can't stop giving momentum to the opponent. At this point, you can scheme it differently, call it differently, build a different game plan. But until a different quarterback walks onto that field, nothing changes. The longer Stefanski waits, the worse these numbers will get, and so will the noise from the fan base, the pressure from ownership, and the temperature on that coaching seat. This isn't just one bad game. This is the trend. The identity. An offense that's flatlining, with a defense slowly being dragged down into the grave alongside it. Here's what no one wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking, this isn't just a Dillon Gabriel problem anymore. It's a Kevin Stefanski problem. Because when your team is 2-6 with multiple Pro Bowlers, when your defense is giving you elite-level performances every week, when your quarterback is clearly in over his head and you still refuse to make a change, it's no longer about execution, it's about leadership. And right now, Stefanski looks like a head coach who's completely out of answers. Go back and watch that press conference again. The man looked defeated, not frustrated, not determined, not even angry. Just flat, burned out, checked out. Like someone who knows the knife is getting closer and there's nothing he can do to stop it. All he kept saying was, we have to look at everything. We need to evaluate every position. I need to do a better job. Over and over and over again. That repetition doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a head coach is cornered, watching his system collapse, repeating cliches in hopes of buying another week of patience. But you know who's not buying it anymore? The media. When reporters start asking, do you need a better quarterback to properly evaluate this offense? That's not just a softball, it's a warning shot. That's the press giving you one more chance to say what everyone knows. Gabriel's not delivering. And Stefanski puntu. Again, the fan base. Cleveland fans have seen too much failure over the years to tolerate another rebuild built on stubbornness. They're watching an explosive defense carry the offense week after week, and they're furious. They're not asking for a Super Bowl. They're asking for accountability. The locker room. And here's the scariest part. Players know. They know when coaching staff doesn't believe in the game plan. They know when there's a quarterback who's losing the huddle. And even if they won't say it publicly, those glances on the sideline, the tension, the little outbursts, they speak volumes. You think Myles Garrett goes out there, records 5 sacks, and walks off the field without frustration boiling over? You think the defense hasn't noticed that Gabriel keeps giving games away and still starts every Sunday? Faith in the quarterback is already gone. Faith in the coach? That's what's fading next. And once that goes, you don't just lose games. You lose the locker room. You lose trust. You lose control. You lose the culture. From the outside, it might look like Stefanski's still calm, still in control, but behind the scenes, that seat is heating up by the hour. Nobody survives this kind of collapse with job security intact, not when the decisions are this bad, this consistent, and this easily fixable. The only reason Stefanski is still in the building today is because ownership hasn't stepped in yet. But if the bye week comes and goes and Dillon Gabriel is still trotting out as QB1, that decision might get taken out of Stefanski's hands permanently. Every team has won a moment of no return, and for the Cleveland Browns, it's staring them right in the face. This bye week? It's not rest, it's a reckoning. After 8 painful weeks of dysfunction, stubborn decision-making, offensive freefall, and defensive dominance pointlessly wasted, it's now or never. Kevin Stefanski doesn't have the luxury of time anymore. He doesn't have goodwill to burn. He doesn't have cover from production. He has one last window to make the most important decision of his coaching career. Will he bench Dillon Gabriel and start Shedeur Sanders, or will he go down with the ship he built? Let's keep it brutally honest, playoff hopes are basically shot. At 2-6, the Browns are staring down yet another wasted season, another failed quarterback experiment, and another round of front office soul-searching. So if this year's not about contending, then it better be about evaluation, development, the future. You already know what you have in Dillon Gabriel, and it's not enough. You know what you have in the defense, and it's being squandered. You know what the fans want, what the analysts are calling for, what the players are likely thinking. And somehow, the only person who hasn't pulled the trigger is still Kevin Stefanski. But if that decision doesn't come now during this exact bye week, it may never come at all. And if it doesn't, then the next decision belongs to ownership. Because this is bigger than one quarterback or even one season. It's about an entire organization's commitment to progress versus pride. It's about whether this team is willing to evolve, make hard calls, and pivot when the current plan is clearly broken, or whether they'd rather double down for PR optics and ride a flailing offense all the way into irrelevance. And here's the reality. Gabriel isn't showing flashes, he's showing red flags. Stefanski isn't making adjustments, he's making excuses. And the only momentum this team has is toward a full-blown collapse. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is sitting, waiting, and watching. He may not be perfect, he may not be ready, but right now, he doesn't have to be. All he has to do is step in and compete, give this team something to rally around, give fans a reason to care, give the film room one more option to build from heading into the offseason. Because trust me, if this team comes out of the bye unchanged, if we hear another empty press conference about process and patience, if Dillon Gabriel trots back out in Week 10 like nothing's wrong, then Stefanski won't just be coaching for a playoff push. He'll be coaching to keep his parking pass. And that's when you know it's already too late. This is it. This bye week isn't just another week off. It's a line in the sand. And what happens on the other side could determine everything: the quarterback, the play calling, the locker room, and yes, even the head coach's future. Because here's the truth. Dillon Gabriel has had more chances than most young quarterbacks ever get. And what has he done with them? Nothing but confirm every worst fear. Poor reads, bad decisions, zero growth, no spark, no upside, no sign things are trending in the right direction. And now, the sample size is too big to ignore. There's no more give it time. There's no more just be patient. There's no more he's young, let him develop. Not when Shedeur Sanders is sitting right there, waiting for a shot. Not when Myles Garrett is playing like a Hall of Famer and getting nothing in return. Not when the season is slipping, the locker room is watching, and the fan base is done waiting. At this point, sticking with Gabriel isn't development, it's delusion. And if Kevin Stefanski can't see that, or worse, if he sees it and refuses to act, then he's not protecting a quarterback, he's protecting an ego. And no successful organization in the NFL can run on that. So here we are. The Browns stand at the edge of a cliff, and they've got no more room to stall. Either they make the move that could finally inject some life into this offense, or everything this season, this regime, maybe even this rebuild falls apart for good. But the scariest part? From everything Stefanski said and didn't say, even he knows the clock is ticking. The only question now is, will he pull the trigger or will the front office do it for him? And trust me, either way, this story is far from over. If you want to stay locked in on every twist, benching, firing, and surprise that's about to hit Cleveland, smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop your prediction right now in the comments. Who's starting next week, Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders? And does Stefanski even survive the next 2 games? Sound off below because this drama is just heating up. Until next time, stay loud, stay smart, and stay watching. Peace.